All right, welcome in. This is Dog Central on a Thursday afternoon. I am Graham Coffey. I am joined today by my good friend and compadre and co-host, Mr. Josh Hancher, aka Dog Stats, coming to us from, I think, the best studio we've ever had on this show today.
Yeah, it's called the patio, but it is a nice day. Trying to keep the dogs from barking. They're looking at me at the door off camera, which is kind of hilarious. So, thanks for having me. It's always we made it through week one, make zero week one. We had some friggin' great games, some upsets, and I don't know about upsets, but I mean we had some surprises.
Oh, we had some good, I got immense pleasure out of watching Wyoming take down Texas Tech in double overtime after a lightning delay.
Yeah,
late night.
Straight degen stuff there. I was degening with the South Dakota State game because I'm in a pool with some friends, and we had South Dakota State with basically it's just total points scored. So I was watching some crazy channel on late night myself. So it was fun weekend. 5 straight days. We got the NFL tonight.
Yeah, I think there's actually. I think Louisville plays Murray State tonight. I don't know if you can get action on that game. If you can, you're even sicker than I am, which, congratulations to you for that. That's saying a lot. But, yeah, man, like you said, fun week one. We didn't do like a pick show last week. Honestly, it's just week one's crazy because it's 5 straight days of football, like you said, and it's kind of hard to get organized for it. And I know me personally, like I was kind of reacting to certain things in real time, like picks that I made on Saturday and Sunday. I probably was on a different spot on Thursday, but I did pass out a lot of my stuff on Dog Central on the website, over on the subscribers forum. Was 3-1 Thursday, Friday, and then I don't think I've told you this. I was 0-6 in the noon slate on Saturday, and so it was looking pretty bleak. Yeah, it was looking pretty bleak, and then I closed with the rest of the day. I won like 8 straight and closed a few games over 500, and then rode DJU in Oregon. I had a ton of action on that Clemson game. I bet that game 2 different ways, and then with a 4 prop parlay that played out plus 700.
You are degened. Woof. That is awesome.
It was good. When Dabo Sweeney told ESPN that Garrett Riley was calling the Clemson offense, I listened to what he had to say, and I believed him. He's a lot of things, but he is an honest man. He did call the Clemson offense, and the Clemson offense remains trash. So the team total under 34.5 for Clemson in that game will probably be the easiest cover of the year for me.
I was shocked at how mediocre to terrible the quarterbacks for Florida to start the week and Cade to end the week was wild. I mean, I was really shocked. Really shocked at how really unimaginative and pedestrian those offenses were.
Yeah, for sure. And I've heard I've seen a lot of Florida fans try to make the argument of well, look at Graham Mertz's stats. They're pretty nice. And it's well, dude, if you check down every time to somebody, for a 3-yard gain on 3rd and 7, then you're going to have a nice completion percentage. And they were throwing the entire second half because they only ran for 21 yards, but I'm not ready to say they got good quarterback play out of Mertz. I think that's a little bit of a pie in the sky stretch. Before we roll into, other games, I've had a lot of discussions about Georgia's opener on the channel at this point. Dustin and I did a quick little Q&A show yesterday, but did you have any impressions of Bulldogs in week one, especially from a statistical standpoint?
Stats were down. They weren't terrible. They weren't bad. They were very they matched with what you saw. Very ho-hum. Yeah, there was definitely some, explosive plays. There were some big plays, but there was a lot of kind of clunkers and just, inefficiencies there. They ended up with a 47% success rate. A decent explosive play rate, which was 14 or so, which is good. That would be fantastic for the season. And I think the complaints were certainly heard on my Twitter feed and just people kind of like overreacting a little bit. And I went back and looked at the 2 games, Sanford and Kent State last year, and yeah, the stats were better. They were more efficient on offense in those games. They were significantly better, success rate on offense, but not that much bigger and better on, yards per play and stuff. So, but again, it's really kind of apples and oranges. You had a 2 or 3 years, I don't know, starter or whatever, but you had a returning quarterback, a returning OC, or lots of returning players on offense, and you had, one game under your belt. And I know that, and people are trying to compare, what we would have done, like Oregon game 1 versus, the Skyhawks. Why can't I remember their name? Jeez, I've already forgotten. I've moved on.
Ball State, or
yeah.
UT Martin.
UT Martin, right. So it was like, it's just ridiculous to try to like freak out on one game, So statistically, yeah, it matched up with what you saw. And we scored a lot of points. We did it just because we were, we out personneled them and we didn't show anything off. I was just actually retweeted Bud Davis, who's a Florida guy and who has great data from Sports Information Solutions, which I can't get a hold of, or I don't want to pay for it. He's got a subscription to it, so it's got a lot of.
I'm jealous of that. Yeah, they got.
It's really great, and we were talking about it off air. It was like 88% zone blocking, which that's straightforward. Guys just stand up, and there's nothing. They didn't do anything. It's significant. They were just running plays and just doing stuff. So that's probably a long answer to say, yeah, they were mid.
Yeah, I talked about that in 12 takeaways. Like the play calling was definitely very conservative. I would like to see higher than whatever the success rate was, high 40% against a FCS team. Obviously, like I'm definitely curious to see what they do this weekend if we see a little more of the playbook. But on the flip side, like you said, like they only ran 6 gap scheme plays, which should be kind of the strength of that offensive line, just from a personnel, athleticism, physical trait standpoint. And like one of those was that 3rd and 2 toss off the left side that busted for 30, 35 yards. Like I'm not really concerned about it yet. And I will say, like, I will confidently say just what I saw from a schematic standpoint, from a formation and concept standpoint, like Bobo is running an offense that is very, very similar, if not, the same as what we saw Todd Monken run last year. And I think that should give Georgia fans a lot of comfort because, the promise that was made was continuity. And that was kind of how the Bobo hire was pitched. And so far they seem to be living up to that promise. So I don't know. I'm in wait and see. My personal opinion all offseason has been, we know how Kirby handles these kind of weaker out of conference opponents, and we're gonna see them work on what they think they need to work on, and so you're gonna basically see them run the things they feel like they're worst at right now, and then, in my opinion, I will start making judgments on Mike Bobo in the 2023 Georgia Bowl. Play South Carolina next week. That will be the first kind of moment of intrigue from a what exactly is this team standpoint, because they're just not going to show much else. Before we jump into this week, I am obligated to tell you, I shouldn't say obligated, I am happy and honored to tell you that this show is sponsored by our friends at homefieldapparel.com. They have the best and brightest and most wonderful throwback collegiate apparel for Georgia or whatever other team. We're about to pick a lot of games and talk about a lot of other programs. So, if you hit like a 12-leg parlay this weekend and it's because, I'm not sure, some random team, because Indiana covers in that 12th leg and you want to start repping Indiana stuff, go check out Home Field Apparel because they do a great job with all college programs. Code DOGCentral23, DAWGS Central 23 for 20% off your first order. A little birdie has told me that as long as you're using an email address you've never ordered with before, that it is considered your first order. So if you're looking for some hot deals on some sweet apparel, go check out our friends at Home Field.
Yeah, this guy right here might be buying some South Dakota State swag here shortly.
Yes,
So,
the Jackrabbits, dude.
No, I'm sorry, Montana State. Sorry,
Montana State. Are they the Grizzlies?
Fighting Bobcats.
Oh, that's even better.
Yeah, they're playing South Dakota State
Bobcat
this week.
Okay. Yeah, the Jackrabbits are no joke. That's going to be a fun matchup.
Yeah,
look, man, as as TV money and everything continues to take over the sport, the FCS might end up becoming more and more close to what some of us are really looking for. So,
absolutely, I think that people are going to be upset. I mean, we won't go down this path, but no, I totally agree that FCS stands to blossom in this environment for a lot of that vibe and feeling what you just said.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's jump into this week's games. Josh, you have made a really, really phenomenal PDF here that you're sharing with the show, and you posted up on the Dog Central subscribers forum this afternoon, which is very kind and generous of you to do. You've always done some of these kind of stat graphic breakdowns, but these have gotten really, really beautiful, man. And you got the heat maps and a lot of, color coded stuff going on. Like, tell us what we're looking at here, because it's pretty awesome.
Well, it's just matchup stats. We're still working with a small sample size. So it's on the left side, you've got the offense versus defense on both sides. So right there, it's just got the raw stats, points per game, success rate, and it's got run pass splits. In the middle, you've got an EPA, which is also all of this data is on both the graph and the charts or whatever. But what the EPA shows you is where the teams are relative to games played and teams that's played so far. So if we're looking at this Georgia versus Ball State, you can see that the Ball State offense was, down on the bottom left, not good, not the quadrant you want to be in, and Georgia was, mid right. And just to explain the EPA, I think this actually is a nice visual for EPA. If you go to the right, you're an efficient offense and success rate, and if you go up, you are a high EPA, which would point to bigger plays, more explosive plays. So up and right, if you get the data, if you got the chart, you'll see Oregon, which is that top right one. They just went nuts this weekend versus whoever, Portland State or whatever. So it just gives you where they are relative to the field. And then the top is bottom. Top is offense, bottom is defense. So again, and it's oriented the same way. So bottom left is bad, top right is good. And so you're going to see, as higher up you go, you expect sort of more points, and the further right you go, you expect just a higher percentage of successful plays.
So, okay, gotcha. Well, so I've got the Georgia Ball State slide pulled up here for our viewers. I did I honestly said I wasn't going to do it, but like you, I'm kind of sick. So I did an actual advanced stat kind of scheme preview type thing for UGA versus Ball State. A lot of it was more kind of player level PFF data than what we're looking at here. But man, I came away actually thinking Ball State gave Kentucky a pretty good game. And if not for kind of some weird bounces and turnovers and, some other things like that game was statistically much closer than it came out on paper. I mean, Kentucky only had 350 total yards and Ball State had almost 300, and they had multiple long drives that didn't end in points. What do you think of the Cardinals?
No, I was going to say, I think I posted the Ball State. So I kind of do a similar thing with the box scores after the game. And Ball State, I mean, Kentucky had a nice game defensively. As you'll see, if you look on the right side, you'll see the Ball State offense was kind of in, dark red, which is not good. But defensively, they were pretty good. And Kentucky was not good on offense. So, breaking in a new quarterback, I don't, Georgia fans don't want to hear it, but, they've got some kinks to work out with that Kentucky offense. But absolutely, no, that game was, I wouldn't say it was close, but it was not a stellar game offensively for Kentucky. And the Ball State defense played pretty well. Conversely,
Yeah, and I mean, Ball State, 4 yards per play on offense last week against an SEC defense is pretty respectable. I mean, that's a first down every 3 plays is what it is. It seemed like they got behind the chains a lot from what I saw, and then were a lot more successful, truthfully, in long yardage than they were on just standard down, regular type plays. They played 3 quarterbacks as well, which is kind of fun. One of them was Lane Hatcher, who was at Arkansas State back in the 2019 Wear Pink for Wendy game. So, kind of one of those guys that's been at like 4 programs now. But they've got, like, if Georgia comes out flat and disinterested and decides not to set the edge again and kind of, doesn't block anybody off the left side of the offensive line, this game could become problematic, at least for a period of time. I'm not saying it will, but I'm just saying Georgia, I think the good thing for Georgia in this game is that the things that Ball State kind of does well are actually a lot of the things Georgia didn't do super well last week. And just my experience with Kirby Smart teams is that they generally don't make the same mistakes week to week. And so I think there's a good chance that they're kind of honed in and focused on what they need to do.
Yeah, certainly a pedestrian to middling offensive production again would certainly make for an interesting week on Twitter. But
to say the least, my friend.
Yeah. So no, I mean, I didn't actually. One of the few games I did not watch was any of this game, actually. Kentucky Ball State. So,
I didn't either. I went back and watched some highlights and like a cut up of it, but
yeah, I mean, I expect it. That Georgia probably had. I don't know. I expect them to come out and play well. I mean, this is, again, they should be able to body these guys that are all over the field. I would like to see some improvement. I would like to see some improvement in the run game, especially interior runs, and I'd like to see some better edge play on the defense, which you just said.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that I noticed on the Ball State side was just like they really, really relied on short passing game. They did manage to hit a couple longer throws on Kentucky. Their quarterback was, I think, 2 of 3 on 20-plus yard attempts, but so much of their stuff was just short and in between the hashes. And I think with Georgia's inside linebackers and safety talent, like, there's probably potential for a turnover or 2 in there, or just, a lot of plays where if they do catch the ball, there's not really any opportunity for yards after the catch. But I'm interested because I think this Georgia back 7 is just really, really nasty. And I think that kind of plays into their hands. I mean, Georgia had 10.4 yards per play passing last week, if I'm reading your chart right here. And it looks like Ball State only had 5.9, which is a pretty small number, right? Like, I don't know. Point being, I expect Georgia to be able to play pretty well on defense, because as well as Ball State played, like, some of the stats that I found on their run game was just, some of them were kind of silly, man. Like, they had such a hard time. Their rushing success rate was only 21%, and their backs averaged 2.7 yards a carry last week, but they like could not. They just really could not get any type of blocking help at all. They had 32 carries for 98 yards as a team. So that's 3.1 yards per attempt in a game where their rushers, Ball State, forced 17 missed tackles last weekend against Kentucky, which, for comparison, Georgia's ball carriers only forced 6 last week against UT Martin. So 17 is just a huge number of missed tackles forced, and then to only come out with 3 yards an attempt. And then they were also, I think, basically the math worked out where if you looked at the yards after contact per an attempt, that they were basically on the average attempt getting hit just slightly behind the line of scrimmage. So this could be a get-right game for Georgia's front four.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one takeaway from if you talk about the Ball State Kentucky is that Kentucky's defense is going to be good this year.
Mm-hmm. I think
yeah,
so.
I mean,
man.
Missed tackles is fine, but that just, I mean, if you're telling guys are flying into the backfield and they don't wrap them up, but they're hitting them. I mean, missed tackles and a high yards per play might be a problem, but missed tackles and a low yards per play just tells me that there's probably a high havoc per rate on that stuff too. So. Get right games would be awesome. I mean, it was definitely the most anticlimactic part of the weekend was definitely the Georgia game. I'm not going to tell you it wasn't.
Yeah, man, it was. I don't know. It was kind of interesting listening to Kirby talk about it and just be like, yeah, this used to be like the type of game where everybody would tell us like, oh, they should be up 40 at halftime, and then if we weren't, like, people would start getting tight and stuff. And
all right, I got a soapbox for you a little bit. Everyone tells me, garbage time this, garbage time that, when we're looking at these stats and be like, oh, well, look, if you're gonna devalue garbage time when you're up a bunch of points playing, whether it's Arkansas or whoever, then this entire game was garbage time. So
it's true.
I don't want to say the team's garbage, but I'm just saying, what are you really going to gather? I mean, yeah, sure. Would you like to see play, guys haul in play, yeah, for sure. But it's just one game versus FCS, and everybody calm down.
I think that's good advice. All right. So in this game, Georgia is currently a 41.5-point favorite, which that's actually come back towards Ball State a little bit, if I'm not mistaken. Over under 52.5. Do you have any predictions, opinions before we move on to some of the other bigger national games on the slate?
Yeah, I'm gonna predict a shutout. So give me 45 nothing. I'll lay the points.
Nice. Okay. I like it a lot. All right. So you got 45 nothing. Let's see. What did I put? I said 51-10 last night. I think that we get a late Ball State, kind of like the touchdown that UT Martin scored last week where, like, it wasn't maybe even necessarily a touchdown, but there's only like 4 cameras on the field because this is a trash game. So we don't ever really know. Whereas, like, if this was like a CBS game, we would have like 3 angles of the ball rotating in the guy's hand.
100% not a catch. And no one can tell me that Kirby didn't tell the refs to call a tight game against Georgia. Give us.
I agree with that. You're not the first person I've talked to this week that has said that, like, I agree, because those flags on the flag that Dalen Everett got after Arian Smith did not get a pass interference was just like very, very, I would say, one-sided. And that's fine, man. Like, but yeah,
that's what you want. Yeah,
Kirby loves to go into the settings and turn the difficulty up to Heisman mode.
Right, and these are SEC refs, right? And these guys have refed some scrimmages and some practices and stuff too. So I mean, there's probably like, hey man, just don't give us anything. I mean, if there's a guy that's playing chess, while we're playing checkers on Twitter, it's Kirby.
I agree. The man, he's got his hands in everything. All right, cool. Let's move on to.
Thought you were going to talk about Urban Meyer there for a second. Sorry.
Look, this is my show. This is our show. We are never, ever having Urban Meyer discussion.
Just the hands in everything was just what I was referring to.
Well, that TikTok of him over on the barrier, just dirtballing hard, man.
Yeah,
that was incredible. Whoever caught that, like, people are so smart. The things they see. All right, Alabama, Crimson Tide got their groove back, so to speak, against Middle Tennessee State last week. Jalen Milroe out there making it rain on folks. Texas, on the other hand, was kind of dicking around with Rice for a lot of the day, not playing super excellent football. The Crimson Tide, seems like off season full of concern about the quarterback position. All of a sudden, we're fine because we saw Jalen Milroe tear it up against the Blue Raiders from Murfreesboro. Texas, an offseason of hype. All of a sudden, maybe a little distrust in the Longhorns after they struggled to run the ball against Rice at times, which they did. Bama's favored by a touchdown. We've got this. I believe this is a night game, which I'm quite excited for. Am I correct about that? 7:30.
I believe so, yeah. Because CBS doesn't start till next week, so it would be the 3:30 game otherwise.
Yeah, it is not the big noon kickoff like it was last year. But Josh, tell us what you see in the stats.
Well, when I cook this up, you can see that on the left side, you see it's good on good. Texas was really, really, elite statistically speaking on the defensive side of the ball. You can see them way up in the upper right. They just didn't give anything to Rice defensively. 18% success rate, I think, is what's down there. So Alabama was good and bordering on. They were good. You can see them in the kind of, they were up there offensively and stuff, and they had some great electric plays, and they did what they needed to do and got out of there. So if you're small sample size, but I do believe that with the talent and the roster they've got, that this defense should be better. And offensively, the Alabama did what they needed to do. It gives you reason to think that they are going to not miss many steps or many beats on offense. So it should be a fantastic game. I really expect the defense for Texas to give the young play caller some trouble. The question is on the other side of the ball, which Alabama's defense was just fine. You'll see a lot of blue on the right side, and the offense, like you said, was not great. So it's kind of the same narrative. Like, all right, what's Sark going to do? Is he a 9-win coach or is he an 11-win coach?
Damn, I've been asking myself that one as well.
So I think it's good on Texas's defense versus Alabama's offense, but I think I would tip the scales a little bit to the Alabama defense versus somewhat unproven Texas offense. Now, Texas offense last year was one of the top 5 or 6 in net yards per play last year. They didn't show us that on Saturday, but don't give up on them yet. I still think there's potential for them to be good, and certainly if this defense can get some 3 and outs, keep the game under control, keep the crowd from just going crazy, I can see a path for a Texas upset on the road for sure.
Yeah, I'm torn about this game for a lot of the reasons you just outlined, and I mean one of them is just like, dude, I sat here with you doing our Big 12 preview like a month or so back and talked about how I'm not betting on Sark to win 10 games until he shows us he can do it, right? I also said at the time, though, that like I could see a path to Texas winning this game versus Alabama and still not winning the Big 12. I mean, those are not, it's not a conference game, obviously. I think the thing that I'm interested in, it seemed like from what I saw on Twitter, Alabama fans were really happy with their linebacker play for the first time in a few years, which was kind of ironic considering former number 4 inside linebacker at Georgia, Tresman Marshall, played as many snaps, I think, as any linebacker for them on Saturday night, which like is kind of just fascinating. Good kid. I hope he does well. And he is a player that I think is very good in coverage as a linebacker. That was always kind of my analysis of him. So that could be an advantage for Alabama in terms of, shutting down any kind of running back passing game. But one thing that stood out to me a little bit is just looking at, Alabama. My question all offseason has been about the line of scrimmage, and it seems like the OL looked very good on Saturday night. That was what I saw, at least. 38 carries for 221, 5.8 yards an attempt. 49 of those yards came on quarterback scrambles, but they did have a 20-yard run off the left edge from who was that? From Chase McClellan. They had multiple chunk gains. They had a 25-yard scramble, a 21-yard run, or a 20-yard run, an 11-yard run, a 13-yard run, an 11-yard run. Like, those are some decent plays. And Bama's, the one thing that was kind of a little alarm bell for me, though, is that Bama's running backs, they are not just running backs, but they're ball carriers on the whole. Like, they average 4 yards after contact per an attempt in a game where they had 5.8 yards a carry. So I'm curious, like, has this Alabama offensive line come as far as everyone says it has? Because it struggled against Texas for a lot of the game last year. And I'm not really worried about the pass pro, but I am worried about, can Alabama line up and run the football? I think they will be able to run the ball effectively. I think they'll be able to do it effectively enough to at least keep Texas somewhat honest. But my question is, what happens in this game if Alabama can't run the ball and all of a sudden Jalen Milroe has got to be the guy, right? Like, all of a sudden he's got to throw, because he only dropped back 23 times last week. He was 13 of 18, which in itself is a little bit interesting for me because, that's how many 5 of 23 passing attempts he scrambled on. Is he struggling to find guys open against Middle Tennessee? Like, is that a vision thing from his part, or is that wide receivers not beating coverage against Middle Tennessee? Either one would probably be a negative situation, but I do have questions about the young guy. If Alabama's not able to run the ball consistently and all of a sudden he's having to drop back 35, 40 times, I don't think that's a recipe for them.
Yeah, no, 30. I mean, we're kind of looking at that Georgia offensive, we've got to depend on your quarterback to throw that many times. It could be a problem. Mm-hmm. So you're spot on. I couldn't add anything better. And you've certainly done more research on the X's and O's and looking at this play and looking at these teams play. If I can just put an asterisk, if you'll notice on my stats, you'll see 6.3 yards per play. That is rushes only. So okay. So I mean, it's fine. It's just a different way to calculate it. So my sacks go into the passing category. So they're a running game that just improves the running game a little bit. I just looked it up. It looked like Alabama had at least 1 sack for 2 sacks for minus 10 yards. So in your traditional stats, they're going to have that in the rushing category. So yeah, I mean, I think. Yeah, this Milroe will have a good year. He's an Alabama quarterback. He's a high-quality recruit. He's a high-quality player. He's going to have a good year. I mean, everybody that's trying to tell me that he's going to be the 8th best quarterback in the league is not fair or accurate. But yeah, he's going to – there's no way that the passing offense can be as good as it's been the last few years for Alabama. And
no,
everyone knows that. So – can Texas get after him? Yeah, dude. I think they can. I really do. I think it's going to be such a great game. And I like what Texas can do defensively, and I think this could be a pretty low scoring game for all those reasons. I think I don't think that either offense is going to try to take a lot of risk and make sure that the game stays in control of them and within the grasp and stuff. So yeah, I mean, which team's going to break off a big run? My guess would be Alabama at this point, because certainly, like you said, they didn't really do much against Rice off running the ball.
I was kind of wrong about that, though. I mean, I'm not wrong, but they did better than I recalled. I would say that, I don't know. I did watch some stretches of the game, particularly in the first half, where I felt like they were struggling, and maybe that's what I should be looking at. But
well, I mean, you just look at the stats I got out there, and it's 3.8% explosive runs.
That's
negative. Negative EPA. That tells me right there, negative EPA, which is really placing a value on those yards and and it's based on down distance and field position. So yeah, they did not have a high EPA game rushing the ball and not a lot of explosives and stuff. And again, I'm sure they weren't trying to show anything running the ball, but on the road, yeah, you're going to need to make some tough yards in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, man. And I mean, the other thing that was interesting to me is on the flip side, Texas's defensive line, like you said, they looked nasty, and they gave up, just 1.6 yards a rush on the ground. And I look at going back to Alabama, Middle Tennessee, one thing that was interesting, and I don't know, like for the reasons you just said, if Texas can even take advantage of this, but the question for me, like I said, has always been, is Alabama's defensive line ready? I felt like the offensive line would take a little step forward this year. It kind of felt like they had to, but their defensive line has been kind of crap for the last couple of years. I mean, Auburn dropped 300 something rushing yards on them last year, and it just hasn't looked like what we were accustomed to under Saban for a long time. But Middle Tennessee, they were 23 attempts, 103 yards, 4.5 yards an attempt against them, which is not like, it's not awful. It's not great. I don't know exactly what to make of it yet. The thing that was interesting to me, though, was, looking at kind of the different gaps they ran in. They were able to make some headway, like in some inside tackle situations. They had an 11-yard run off left guard. They had a 9-yard run between center and right guard. Couple 6-yard runs. Like I don't know if it'll translate, and that's what's hard about these week 2 games. Is just like it's so hard to opponent adjust in college football, anyways, but especially with like such a small sample set that we have at the moment.
All right, I just pulled up some stats. Middle Tennessee did have 6 yards of carry in the first 3 quarters.
There you go. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, and if let's see what they did in the first half. Yeah. So there's reason to think that the defense still needs to step up on that side, in that area for Alabama.
Can I drop a red flag on you a little bit for me that I literally just saw that is interesting to me? Jalen Milroe, like statistically nice game, right? I mean, what did he come out to? Something like 72.2% completion, 194 yards, 10.8 yards an attempt. The only thing that's concerning to me, so he was pressured 7 times, and 4 of those he scrambled, which is probably a good thing. But, 30% pressure rate against Middle Tennessee is high to me. I mean, just to compare, Georgia had allowed 1 pressure and 35 dropbacks as a team last weekend against UT Martin. And then the other thing that was interesting is just looking at his PFF passing depth kind of chart. Like on deep throws of 20-plus yards, he was 3 of 4 for 124 yards and 3 touchdowns. All 3 of those throws were graded as big-time throws by PFF, which is a really good sign, obviously, for his deep balls. But just 0 of 2 on 10 of 19-yard throws. And then he's 7 of 8 on 0 to 9 throws, which is good. It's good accuracy. But, he got 6.4 yards an attempt out of those, which is not great. I'm just curious, like, it does scare me a little bit if he's kind of boom or bust in this game. Like, it's either, he's hitting deep balls or he's not really, but it's just the fact that he never saw something he wanted to throw in that kind of intermediate range does make me a little worried about his kind of field vision.
Yeah, I think you're expecting progression, with him. So, just by the same sort of, I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, but I mean, he's going to be fine. I don't think the quarterback, I mean, how do I say this? Yes, they're going to have to depend on the quarterback, but I still think that they're going to be fine. They've got other tools in their tool. I mean, they need him to be efficient. They need him to be smart. And yeah, I mean, if he's not seeing the field, if he can't make those reads and those progressions and those decisions, but I'm expecting him to progress a little bit. I mean, a lot. So Now this game right now, this is why these early games are so fun. It's like I mean, if you're saying he can't see the field or that he's still learning that and he doesn't have that mastered yet, then man, Texas might make some plays. I mean,
Yeah.
is that what you're intimating at?
Well, I think it's going to be a little bit of a boom or bust, like I was saying.
Yeah.
It's just, it's like it seems like for him, they're explosive, but it's just kind of like we're either going to take little chunks or we're going to hit deep balls, but we're not going to be an offense maybe quite yet that's consistently hitting 12 to 16-yard throws, once or twice a drive. Like it's either we're hitting the 40-yard bomb to Jermaine Burton or Ja'Cory Brooks or we're 3 and out. That's my kind of worry for them in this game. And maybe they can do that. I don't think Alabama's receivers are what they were a couple of years ago. They're not, just straight up. There's not a Jameson Williams on this team. I'm not even sure if there's a John Mechie on this team, but that doesn't mean they can't get open against Texas. Like I don't have any real good vibe or feel on what the Texas secondary is yet. I like Catalan, the safety that was at Arkansas for a while, who came over. But if you're, we were talking a second ago about kind of that offensive line and pass pro. The red flag spots are at center with Seth McLaughlin. He had just a 46.2 pass block grade against Middle Tennessee State last week. And then the tight end, he gave up a pressure, but he was only in 5 snaps, so I'm not worried about him. He was a starter, but I would say, we've heard a lot about Alabama kind of running that heavier set. Maybe that's a struggle point. I don't know. I guess what do you think happens on Saturday?
What's the line?
7. Alabama -7.
That's a tough number.
It's right on the number. Yeah.
Right
I'm sorry. It's up 7.5.
Yeah. Give me the hook. I'll take that. If you give me the hook, I'll take it. Interesting little nugget. If you take out the third quarter where they had 2 passes for 78 yards, Alabama was under 7 yards of play passing the ball. So talk about boom or bust. There it is. 2 plays basically jumping up to 8 something yards a play on passes. So sorry. Yeah, give me 7.5. I'll take that. That'd be fun.
Yeah. All right. Cool. I'm with you, man. I think all week I've been telling myself I'm not going to do the dumb thing and pick against Alabama in this game. But the more that I just look at the player level data, I think that Texas is, I think they're actually kind of ready for this game. It's going to be tough for them to go and play on the road, but like, dude, they've got some straight up pass rushers. Tavondre Sweat, 3 total pressures and 17 pass rush attempts. Brian Murphy, 4 pressures and 12 pass rush snaps. Ethan Burke, 3 pressures and 9 pass rush snaps. Like, I know it's freaking Rice, but that tells me they got dudes that can get home. And I think that's what you need in this game, is to hurry up Jalen Milroe's clock. They had, Texas had 21 pressures last week against Rice in a game where Rice, our old friend JT Daniels, he dropped back 30 times. To have 21 pressures on 30 dropbacks is pretty impressive. If you're looking for the comparison, Bama had 12 pressures against 39 dropbacks from Middle Tennessee State. So I'm going Texas. I think Texas is ready to play this game on the defensive front, and I'm not going to pick. I'm definitely taking Texas plus 7.5, but
yeah, I think Bama should win this game.
I don't know if they should, but I just think being at home, I think they have more experience winning games like this than Texas does still, at this point. So I think it's going to be a fun game, though. I think it could come down to a field goal at the end.
What's the total?
That's a great question. 54.
Yeah, give me the under on that too.
All right.
Yeah, I like a 24-17 kind of game.
Awesome. All right. So quick question for you. What happens if Texas just runs in here and just beats that ass?
Oh, it'll be a fun week on Twitter. It would be pretty awesome because it's all you're gonna see the tweets. College football is better when Texas is good. People are gonna be looking at Texas. You're gonna see all the Texas USC Rose Bowl highlights for a couple weeks. I do believe that would confirm that the Big 12 runs through Austin.
Yeah.
Which is what everything is trending that way and pointing that way from Vegas to otherwise. Interesting to if they demolish them, then yeah, I mean it's take notice time. I don't see that. I just don't see that happening. I can see a win. I can see a convincing win. I can see but and it'd be interesting on that side if Oklahoma destroys SMU and Texas comes in there and gets a win. Big 12 is going to be a fun year. I mean, it's colliding for the Red River Shootout. Like the good old days before we bring it into the SEC.
Right? No, totally. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be a fun game no matter what, and it should be I think a close game too. Like I don't think either of them is getting blown out of the water, but
yeah, I like a defensive game, dude. I think this thing's going to get decided late in the third quarter. It's going to be awesome.
I'm with you. All right, so let's go down the road let's go way out west because Auburn is heading out to Cal. Talk about like a friggin' one of the strangest just I've spent some time this week picturing Cal and Auburn fans interacting around tailgates and how foreign they will all seem to one another. It's gonna be interesting.
Do you think they have Sweet Home Alabama in any of the jukeboxes in Berkeley? I don't
probably.
Yeah, I just remember. Yeah, I definitely don't have Waffle Houses in Berkeley, so I don't know.
Maybe more like the Mamas and the Papas kind of vibe.
Yeah. I'm curious how well Auburn's going to travel out there. It's going to interesting.
It will be.
You talk about a game that in April when you're looking at it, being like, oh, that's a weird game. Both teams stink, and now Cal had an impressive performance, and Auburn did as well. So there's some juice in this game that we didn't expect in the preseason.
Yeah. Auburn's favorite 6.5. Over under is 54.5. I did take Cal last week. I thought that they were undervalued all offseason. They did a sneaky good job in the transfer portal, and I actually do think some of the drama of them being homeless from a conference standpoint and all of that does affect people's perceptions of what their football team is actually like and can influence some of this type stuff. So I basically wanted to back that because I felt like that, sometimes spreads do move on stupid emotional crap. They really do. I am very interested to see, Auburn in this game. I thought that their defense didn't play particularly well against UMass. I know that the score didn't really reflect that, but am I seeing that right? They gave up 7.1 yards per play against UMass.
Yeah, I'm guessing there were some turnovers in there. You can see explosive play rate of 13.7.
Mm-hmm.
So they gave up some big plays on defense, and I thought defense was going to be sort of the linchpin of this team this year.
Yeah.
So there's some question marks there. Just looking at the passing game metrics, negative EPA passing. So there was probably some picks, interceptions there that were integral to the domination that the score would indicate.
Yeah. Peyton Thorne, the Michigan State transfer, pretty pedestrian debut. I mean, if this isn't a Peyton Thorne stat line, I really don't know what is. 10 of 17 for 141 yards and a touchdown, 8.3 yards an attempt. Not a bad stat line. Not a good stat line. No interceptions to his credit. But, just not overly accurate. Did not, let's see, did he hit? Actually was pretty effective downfield. Was 3 of 6 on 20-plus yard throws. But was only 1 of 4 on 10 to 19-yard throws and 3 of 4 on short throws. So another kind of boom or bust style offense a little bit here. I mean, they put up 59, but New Mexico State scored, I think, 30 on these guys the week before. I don't know. I mean, this game, Auburn, to their credit, 6.7 yards a carry for 290 yards on the ground last week. 4.3 yards of contact yards after contact per an attempt from their ball carriers, which is very solid. I don't know, man. I just think that score is a little smoke and mirrors, and people are maybe overvaluing Auburn a little bit in this game.
The fact that it's on the road, so I mean, like, Auburn would be favored by 9.5 at home, under a touchdown. I still kind of think that Auburn can out roster them, is a term seem to be using this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I like Auburn in here, but your analysis, and you were spot on certainly in game one in terms of what they were doing roster wise to get ready for the season. So I just don't think this is an intimidating environment to play. So this game should be manageable for Auburn all game long. It's not like a situation where they're on the road and if they go 3 and out and give up a touchdown drive, it's not like it's going to be crazy loud.
Don't sleep on Berkeley, bro. Come on.
All right, I'm definitely sleeping on Berkeley, but
yeah, I don't blame you on that one. What do you think happens? You got Auburn covering?
Yeah, I like Auburn to cover.
All right.
I was kind of in on Auburn.
Okay.
I think as an undervalued team that I think they're going to be problematic in the SEC, and I didn't see anything offensively, and I think that defense can and should be a net positive for them. So even though they didn't look spectacular against UMass for the same reasons we talked about the Georgia offense being game one, I can see this defense being just fine.
I feel you, man. I'm going against you on this one. What if Cal's the wagon, dude? What if they're the Ohio of 2023? Honestly, the reason why I'm picking Cal in this game, 55 carries for 361 yards and 6 touchdowns rushing last week on 6.6 yards an attempt. Auburn gave up 6.7 yards an attempt to UMass, 22 carries for 148 yards. A little concerning in my mind. And just in case you're wondering, only 12 of those yards were from like quarterback scramble breakdown type stuff. So that's a lot of design run yardage given up. I'm taking the Golden Bears plus the 6.5, and I might even have a little money line sprinkle on Justin Wilcox boys. I don't know, man. I think sometimes this sport is kind of poetic, and I think this could be a game where, just with what's happened to Cal this offseason with all the bureaucracy and BS, maybe they win one for the dying Pac-12.
Yeah. So I just digging into that passing EPA. No interceptions actually against UMass, but 4 sacks and a strip sack fumble. So
is that bad?
Yes. Well, yeah, and two of those sacks were one was at the 18 and one was at 24-yard line. So that's, hey, look, here's an explanation. EPA. Matt, see, that's the
that makes sense.
Field position part of that calculation. So yeah, taking you out of field goal range, taking you behind the sticks, keeping you out of schedule. So yeah, defensive those havoc plays just boosted that negative EPA for the pass defense for Auburn.
I like it. All right, Colorado versus Nebraska.
What did Colorado do on Saturday? I didn't watch.
Yeah, right.
I will say that
under a rock.
My wife actually sat down. Mrs. Dog Stats, not the biggest football fan in the world, could not take her eyes off this game.
Wow.
So casual in the truest sense of the word, and was mesmerized by it. And it was a basketball game. It was a lot of fun.
All right. So Colorado currently is sitting as a 3-point favorite in this game. I mean,
that's a 10-point swing. Look ahead.
Is it?
Yeah, it was 7. They were -7 to +3.
I mean, the question is like, can Nebraska score points? I mean, I'm inclined to think that they can have a better performance than they did last week against Minnesota. But, Nebraska, the red flag for me in this game for Colorado is that when TCU rushed more than 3, they got home. They got a couple sacks. I think they maybe had an interception. But they just didn't do
it. And the defense was super questionable. I mean, that was a young starting quarterback and an offense that replaced 70% of the returning production for TCU from last year, and they did not get stopped very often.
No, they did not. What are your thoughts on the game?
I mean, my thoughts are very similar. It's like, oh yeah, of course, Colorado's going to roll. What I saw on Saturday and how much, but Nebraska, it is interesting. It's on the road for Nebraska, so that's exciting. The place is going to be lit, as the kids say. It's going to be they're going to be slap. And I'm ready for another exciting game. It's hard for me to have any confidence in watching that Nebraska game and the quarterback play from our friend Sims, who transferred in there. Yeah, it's hard to see that offense being able to keep pace. I just can't get behind. I mean, I guess I'm going I don't know about 7. I mean, I got a feeling. I think Nebraska's either going to keep this real close and win, or Colorado. I can see Colorado just absolutely demolishing the game.
Stomping that ass.
Yeah, again, just the offense for Nebraska has just been suspect for a long time. So, and if it's a close game, Nebraska's going to lose it. So,
that's my thing, man. I think this sets up. I think it could be a close game late, and if it is, good God, man, self-belief. The self-belief delta in this game is as wide as any I've seen, and all the time we've done this together. Like, dude, it's just ridiculous. At the end of the day, I got to ask myself the question: okay, Nebraska, they had a nice day on the ground against Minnesota, right? But the problem is Jeff Sims had 117 of their 201 rushing yards, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just I don't know that their running backs can line up and run the ball too much. The other side of this, man, is just, dude, am I gonna put money on a guy who had 24 dropbacks against Minnesota, and those resulted in 11 completions for 114 yards, a touchdown, and 3 picks?
And that touchdown was garbage. Absolutely.
Yes,
garbage.
That's right. I forgot about that. That touchdown came off of a fumble. Yeah, dude, I can't do it. A double reverse pass fumble, ball bounces into his hands, and he's got a guy wide open in the end zone. So, and dude, the first home game for Prime, that place is going to be electric, like you said. I actually think my mother-in-law, I think her partner, he's going to be there for the game. His daughter went to CU. I think he's coming out from Philly. So Buffs are coming out from all over the country. As they say in Boulder, I'd rather be dead than red. I'm back in the Buffs, dude. Give me the Buffs -3. Screw it. I know that everybody's, I'm seeing people today try to swing back.
If you're gonna ride it, Graham, hit that money line, dude.
Well, Colorado's favored.
Oh, sorry.
You're good.
Still can't get over that. Yeah. Whew, do an alt line, man. I mean, like
alt line Colorado minus like 9.5. I've thought about that.
Yeah.
What would you alt line it at?
Yeah, I like 9.5.
I just think there's a universe where they just run Nebraska out of the stadium because because Nebraska can't score points, man.
That was a hard watch.
Oh,
it was a beautiful broadcast. I mean, the 4K Fox is
sweet. It's legit.
But that was it.
Especially that 4th and 11 touchdown pass from Minnesota to tie it at the end, where you could literally in real time see the turf fly up from where the kid's toe touched. Like
it was beautiful. And I mean, Nebraska looked like they had a win. They were just trying to get out of there. They did not look confident at any point offensively in that game. At any point,
no, they didn't.
They just personnel wise or scheme wise or execution wise. And how do they not have the deer in headlights? I mean, could you imagine a worse setup for a Nebraska team with a new coach and a transfer quarterback? It's just setting up for me to get busted on all these narratives and Nebraska to win by 14. But I'm still going Colorado.
Yeah, I'm on Colorado. Let's keep rolling here. So Vanderbilt goes to Wake Forest. Do we have a slide for that? Probably
it's not. Down there somewhere, yeah.
All right, I'll find it. Anyways, while I'm looking for it.
Shout out my buddy Gator Haters. He's in the comments. Let's go.
What's up, John? AKA Gator Hater. Hope you're doing well. Widespread panic for life. What do you think about Wake Vanderbilt? Here we go. Okay. Vandy has looked kind of assy, particularly against the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. Almost gave that game away at the end. 7.9% explosive play rate allowed against Hawaii and some FCS team. Not that great. Wake Forest, they didn't look that good against Elon, though. Mitch Griffiths at quarterback now. I don't want to go too down the wormhole of, like player level data for Wake versus Vandy, but do you have a lean here or a pick?
Oh yeah, I like Wake all day. I just don't think there was any reason against Elon for them to do anything. Dave Clawson's a hell of a coach. Mm-hmm. I like Clark Lee just fine, but defensively, they were menacing against Elon. They did everything you want to defensively, and they still put up 37 points a game and kind of look clumsily doing it. I don't see anything defensively from Vanderbilt that's gonna like make me think that they're not gonna be able to execute on offense, and I don't see anything on Vanderbilt offensively that makes me want to think that they can play against this defense. So I kind of like Wake in the shrunken stadium there in Nashville. So I don't know if Wake travels like every other visiting team.
I think this is at Wake.
Oh, it is at Wake? Okay. All right.
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It is. Yeah, home Wake. All right. So, yeah, even better. So, I have not seen – I did not watch the North Alabama game, I believe. I'm not sure who they were playing, but I did not watch it. I watched the Hawaii game, and that was a tough watch too. I mean, there was delays. There was a lot of mitigating factors in there, but still, at some point, you're a better team than them. You were favored.
Well, no, I mean,
two touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean that the truth of the matter is that like they lost the fourth quarter against Hawaii, and they did it by a couple touchdowns. Like that's a red flag for me, straight up.
It was passer curfew, Graham.
Well,
this Vandy kid's got to be in class. Mrs. Dogstats is a Vandy Commodore, so she won't watch. She will not watch this.
She will definitely not be an hour and 4 minutes into this podcast.
God bless anyone who is.
Yeah, sorry guys. Baylor versus Utah. Baylor is only a 7.5-point dog at home after Utah beat Florida and Baylor got housed by Texas State. To me, this is a red flag line. Not sure if Cam Rising is back or not. I would guess that this line is probably assuming that he isn't. I'll just go ahead and say it, man. You and I talked off air before the show about some of these kind of Easter egg lines that Vegas leaves around. This thing stinks to high heaven. I'm taking the Bears plus 7.5 at home.
Yeah, I like that too. As we enjoyed that even having thought, even picking Florida, it was fun to kind of watch the misery there. I don't against Utah, but that Utah team was didn't do much to impress me, especially offensively and stuff. If Cam comes back, sure, I would boost it up a little bit, but still, I just think that Baylor, give me 7.5.
I mean,
with that hook too.
The issue for Baylor against against Texas State was giving up big pass plays, which is embarrassing. But let's be honest, man. Like that's not really how Utah is going to operate, especially if they're still on the backup quarterback. Like I know he did hit the 75-yarder, which was a beautiful throw, but they didn't do a large amount of, they didn't do much through the air. It was one big explosive, really. So I'm just saying Baylor gave up 298 through the air last week against Texas State. On the flip side, they did give up 150 on the ground, but it was 4.3 yards a carry. I don't know.
This is a sickos game. This is like a sickos game. But
Baylor threw for 416 last week, dude.
Oof. Dang.
Yeah. And they lost. Shit, I might be wrong about this. I don't know. I'm probably gonna stay away from that.
You don't have to bet at all. You don't have to bet them all. It's a good game.
That is not what I told myself this morning when I woke up.
Can I spin a little narrative because
please?
The Pac-12 and Big 12 are a lot of games crossing over. Just imagine if Utah and Oregon and Washington, and I think Oregon State too, take care of business, and the last year of the Pac-12 is off to a rocking start with big wins. I mean, there's another narrative. If Texas is back and the Pac-12 is back, and the SEC is down, it's like it's the college football dream outside the Southeast.
You're right. It is. Be interesting to see. I think it's possible. I think it's very possible, actually.
I think Utah is the better team, but there's a lot of it's a tough setup for them for sure.
Notre Dame versus NC State. Wolfpack is a 7.5-point dog. I'll just go ahead and tip my hand now. I like NC State in this game. I bet against them last week. I took UConn plus 14.5. Catch that bad boy. That was a line that stunk. This line kind of stinks too. The reality is that NC State was I thought they played actually a pretty efficient game on offense against UConn. You've got it here on your chart, 59.7% offensive success rate usually translates to more than the points that they scored.
Well, look at that EPA. This is kind of a good example. It is that EPA down on that lower kind of tells you, not a lot of explosive plays. It's a
0% explosive rate in the pass game for NC State.
Yeah, so that tells me that right there, if you want to look at that stat, you can be like, hey, NC State's going to need to be able to move the ball a lot to get in scoring position, to get scoring opportunities. Hope I didn't just lose Graham because I am not.
I'm here.
Okay, good.
Sorry.
Yeah, so that tells you right there they're going to need a lot of plays. They're going to need more plays than usual than your average team to get in scoring opportunities. That's how I would interpret that on a very small sample size. High success rate, low EPA.
Gotcha. Notre Dame was impressive against Navy. I don't know how much we can really tell in the long run from that game. I have always liked Sam Hartman. I still like Sam Hartman, but I'm going to go – I think I'm going to go NC State plus the 7.5 here, especially because they get the Irish at home in Raleigh. I think that helps their cause.
I'm I'm gonna lay the points. I don't like the hook for sure.
Mhm.
I kind of like the fact that Notre Dame's played 2 games already.
That's true. That definitely helps. Yeah, I don't know, man. I
I
feel
mean,
like
if it's
NC State has a history of playing games like this closely and losing. Like I could see them losing this
yeah,
game like 28-24 or something like that. I don't think they have a I don't think they're going to win it. I could see this being a backdoor cover type situation even where they, score a touchdown with 45
yeah,
seconds left and
I expect this to be a statement game defensively from Notre Dame, and if it's not a statement game, and like you say, there's a backdoor cover there, then I think we can sort of start to pump the brakes on the on the Notre Dame playoff hype.
fair enough. Is there any game you want to go to on the board? Is there anything that you had like particular interest in?
Yeah, I want to just jump into the Oregon if you can find Oregon in there.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
it's interesting just for the statistical anomaly of what they did. I mean, granted,
They really did something
it was
crazy.
Portland State, and I mean, like if you go back into some of my blog posts and see some similar graphs, you'll see some Georgia games that were outliers. One of which was Georgia versus Oregon last year,
Mhm.
and it was just way up offensively in the top right, but also way down in the top left. Interesting also is you don't have to pull it up, but just let me just hype it. Go to dogcentral.com, go find the dog stats blog. You'll see all these graphs in there, and you can see, I
Got
think
it.
it's kind of, yeah, there it is. Yeah, see way up top right, massive offensive EPA, massive offensive success rate, and defensively, I mean, it's Portland State. That's what I think everyone in Georgia Twitter wanted to see from us, but whatever. Um, but and also Syracuse, that bottom way down on the defensive success rate, bottom left was Syracuse had allowed under 10% success rate to, I think it was Cornell. So it is.
Yeah.
I mean, we're again dealing with small sample sizes as we go through the season. I'm going to be adding per games on there, and I'll kind of show you guys where they are relative. I think the Wisconsin Illinois game, you'll see those 2 teams bunched up in the middle, so that you expect that to be a kind of a slugfest tight game late in
You
the
mean
fourth quarter.
Kansas, Illinois?
Kansas, Illinois. Wisconsin's another one too.
Wisconsin, Washington State. Yeah.
Yeah, Washington State. Oh yeah, there's one of my Pac-12 games. Yeah,
I like
um,
Wazoo in that game, +6.
yeah, yeah. I can see that too. I, I don't. It's been a minute since I've been a believer in Wisconsin winning big games out of conference.
Fair enough. Yeah, totally.
So, um, yeah. So yeah, man. Thanks for bringing my stuff up on the screen. It was fun doing it, and if you did buy my guide and use a code from Dog Central, if you got it, you should check your email because you've got the PDF, which is kind of cool because you can
Nice.
scroll through it. You're not stuck in JPEGs on our website. And also, if you're a Dog Central subscriber, you can get that in the forum for free. And all the graphs and all the stats and all the JPEGs are in my blog, which is free. So thank you for letting me park my stuff there, Graham.
Totally. All right, quick rapid fire, real quick for you.
Yeah.
On a couple games. Ole Miss -7 against Tulane.
Give me Tulane. I would, if I were betting that, I'd probably buy a hook.
Okay, I like it. Iowa -4.5 against Iowa State. Over of 36.5 points. Sickest game of the week.
I'll take the under 6. You can't cover 5.5 if you can't score 7.
That's very true.
Yeah, I think Iowa's a better team. I think Iowa State's so I can and that offense is motivated by the OC's clause to score 25 a game or whatever.
Dude, and they didn't score that last week against Utah State, man.
Yeah. No, I would not touch that game with a 10-foot pole with my money, but I think Iowa. I can see Iowa covering that.
I think it's going to be Iowa as well. I think it's going to be who I don't know though. There's a chance there's not a touchdown scored in that game. That's very possible. Texas A&M on the road at Miami, favored by 3.5. I think Texas A&M's legit. Last week did nothing to dissuade me from that. I actually feel like it's even more likely now. Is there anything you know about Miami that's a red
flag? They looked good offensively last week.
Mm-hmm.
I watched a little bit of that game. They had some explosive plays. Some of their playmakers got room and executed. That game's in Coral Gables, right? So
Yes, it is.
they are begging people to show up.
I
I
saw
can
they were
see.
giving free tickets to the Georgia Tech game if you show up for this game. I'm not even kidding. I'm not even joking. It was a real thing. Bretman Murphy tweeted it.
So that's an interesting game. I really do. I'm just not ready to. I mean, both these teams are just train wrecks, narrative wise. Both need a big win. Even everyone thought last year's big win was something, but it turned out to be nothing. So I would have guessed A&M preseason, but I'll take what's the 3. I'm getting 3.5 if I take Miami.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll take 3.5 at home. Give me the home dog.
Let me see if there's anything else here. We talked about Oregon, Texas Tech already. Did you like Oregon in that game?
Yeah, Texas Tech is kind of that Wyoming game was pretty wild. I think Oregon's on a mission, and I can see that being getting out of hand early.
Fair enough. I do like Southern Miss plus 31 against Florida State. I think there's going to be a little kind of hangover for them. I don't think it'll be close, but I think Southern Miss is a well-coached football team, and they'll keep it within 31. Arizona coming all the way out to Mississippi State. Bulldogs favored by 9.5. I have no idea what to make of that game, but I'm kind of excited to watch it. I think Jed Fish has quietly done a decent job. Oh, UCF Boise. Central Florida going all the way out to the land of spuds. They are a 3.5-point favorite on the blue turf. Who do you like?
I like UCF to. I mean, I like UCF in that game to win, but this will be a good test. We pointed out when we did. I think we did. We did a Big 12 preview that UCF has no back-to-back home games, and they're going to be traveling a bunch. So this will be interesting to see how they handle that, especially early. Is that at altitude, by the way?
Yeah, Boise's up there. It's not crazy. Let's see. I mean, it's definitely in the Rocky Mountains, but it's kind of like on the. Oh no, it's not. It's only 2,700 feet. I'm sorry.
Well, from sea level to 2,700 is not nothing, but
it's not nothing. But it's not.
But yeah, it's not. Yeah. That'll be the interesting thing there. It's like if they don't look great, if they look out of sorts, and that travel, that may be something to make note of later in the season as they go back and forth all over the country.
I like it. All right, man. Well, this was fun. Always enjoy getting on here and riffing. I know this isn't the most, we're not totally organized on this kind of show. We're just sort of picking games and honestly taking advantage of this really great PDF type content that you made. So it's fun to do it. I feel like there's some good insights that we are able to hit, even if you don't want to tail our picks, which, this is not financial advice in case we haven't said that.
We're teaching people to fish here, Graham. We want them to look at the stats, take their own eyeballs, their own narratives, and look at these numbers and just see and have some fun. I'm a bowl pick 'em, kind of guy myself. I don't bet a lot of money, so it's fun to look at this stuff. I know I'm going to start doing some score predictions at some point. So I thought we did a pretty good job running around, and I certainly had fun doing it. So
I did too, and I think like you said, and there was such freedom that came to me at a point, I don't know, a few years ago, kind of around the time that you and I started doing this together, where you realize like, oh, I don't have to go listen to a bunch of podcasts and try to hear other people's picks. Like I have access to the same information that they do, and in a lot of cases, I'm willing to do more research and spend more time in terms of, picking these games and finding the right answer. And once that clicks, it's like, okay, let's roll. So, yeah, man, I enjoyed it. Thank you for doing this. Thanks for taking the time to make the charts and spending the time with me on here. And above all, enjoy the games on Saturday.
All right. We're about to kick off the NFL too. So
that's right.
Go Lions.
Why not? Go Lions. Dan Campbell, man's man.
Thanks, Greg.